Okay, so this is my basic 12-bar blues video. We're going to first just define a 12-bar in E. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 2, 3, 4. 3, 2, 3, 4. 4, 2, 3, 4. 4 chord. 2, 3, 4. Back to the 1. 5 chord. 4 chord. 1 chord. 5 chord. And that completes bar 12. Now we're going to do the, we're going to start to do some embellishments and some substitutions. We'll start with just embellishments. We're going to count 4, and we're going to count the half beats in between each of those 4. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. We're going to start on the 1 chord, bar 1, and we're going to strum the first downbeat, 1, and then the low E string becomes the end of 2, where we're going to play the A chord, and back to beat 3 on the E chord, and beat 4 on the A chord. So that gives us our 4 beats on our first bar. 1. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I'll start from the 12 bar now, okay? So I'm doing 1, and that's a low side, 1 and 2 and 1 and 2. And each time I'm hitting on the ands, I'm hitting the low E, and then I'm just rocking between the E and the A. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 2 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 3 and 2 and 3. 4 and 4. 2, 3. That completes our first 4 bars, right? Now on the A chord, we want to do the same thing. If we were playing A here, which is our E7 moved up, I'm doing the same thing. E to A equals A to D. I'm at the 5th fret. And I'm doing the exact same thing with the right hand. The low E string on the ands, and then 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, right? Now, let's go back to position 1 and do it from there. So we know that the 4 chord goes A to D, right? Well, we can do that by putting a D chord. It's just an inversion of the D chord. Here's our D chord. If we take this F sharp and move it here, we get this inversion. F sharp, A, and D. So we're going to rock between our A chord and we can do it in the first position instead of having to move up to the fifth position. So that looks like this. E. When we switch to the 4 chord, it's A. You see I'm pedaling that A string open, and I'm just putting the D chord in front of it. Five chord, 4 chord, back to the 1. Now we're going to do our little turnaround fill. E, okay, and that completes our 12 bar with the turnaround. Now I'll play the whole thing 12 bars with our rocking on each chord, except for the 5 chord. We're going to leave the 5 chord alone. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 3, 2, 3, 4. 4 chord, 2, 3, 4, back to the 1, 5 chord, 9, 10, 11. 5 chord on beat on bar 12, and we're back. Now I could have gone, instead of the 5 chord on bar 12, I could put in our little turnaround lick. So that would be, I'll start from the 5 chord at bar 9. 9, 2, 3, 4, 4 chord, 2, here's completes bar 11. That completes bar 12. And we're back in. Okay, now the first thing about that, if we are constantly in motion, sometimes that can be a little busy, especially if we're playing under a singer. So we don't have to do this every time. In fact, there's a couple common ways to do it. One is to do it on beat 2, but not on beat 3 and 4. So we don't do it on beat 1, we do it on beat 2, we don't do it on beat 3 and 4. That sounds like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, so for each measure, instead of doing it twice as much, we just do it on the second beat, and that gives us a little more space. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? It's a little subtle. Great for playing under a singer where you're not so busy that you're distracting from singing. Another place would be to do it on beat 4 only. Okay, let's try that. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. case I went to the B on beats 3 and 4 in bar 12 instead of beat 1. There's lots of little variations like that. Okay, now, so that's our basic pattern for major blues in a 12 bar with a little bit of a rhythmic figure. I'm going to show you one more little variation. One is to do your regular rock and roll riff and then do the sus4. I should say the 4 chord, right? The 1 chord, 4 chord. So now I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. I'm going to do a little slower. These are, again, just sped up for some context, but here it is slow. 1, 2, 3, 4. We're on our 4 chord. 1, 2, 3. Again, the right hand is doing the same exact thing on all of these. I'm just doing some variations on the left hand to give it a little variety. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, we would do the same thing on the A. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1. Right? Our other variation is just to do the rock and roll idea, but we're gonna add our 5th, 6th, flat 7 note, 6th, and 1. So that becomes 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Same thing on 4 chord. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and now we're back into bar 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, bar 9, bar 10, and our turnaround 11. So we can create, and lots of motion, lots of invention along these things, but what I'm showing you is a lot of some of the basic ones, okay? Now let's switch over to minor blues. We'll do minor blues in the key of G. So I'm going to start by playing in a G minor. Typically minor blues are slightly more interesting harmonically, so we're going to use minor 7 chords instead of just straight minor chords. It's a little bit more common to hear the minor 7s used in a minor blues, because the minor blues tends to be a lot more, slightly more complex harmonically. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, bar 4, 2, 3, 4, 4 chord minor 7, 2, 3, 4, back to 1 chord. Now here on bar 9, instead of going to the 5 chord, the E minor, we're going to go up a half step from that and play the E flat dominant 9 chord. Then we're going to slide to the 5 chord and we're going to do our dominant sharp 9 chord. That's going to substitute for our 5 chord and our 4 chord, and then go back to the 1 chord. And then back to the altered 5 chord. So altogether that looks like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4. Bar 5, bar 6, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Bar 9, 2, 3, bar 10, 2, 3, 4, bar 11, 2, 3, 4, and back to the 5 chord. And that's our 12 bar in minor. Now we can also do the same kind of embellishments. We can all I did there was slide up to the 5 chord, back down. And the reason is, well, but let's not get into the reason why yet. Basically, from the C minor, I'm going to do the same thing. 4 chord to flip to the to its suspended chord. If you look at that, that's an F chord. And then right here is our F chord. So I'm borrowing that F chord to take us back to the 1 chord. Anyway, let's just, I'm giving the same idea of the embellishment. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. I'm just doing a C chord. 4 chord. 1 chord. And that was a C minor, D minor 7, which is also an F chord. 2, 3. E flat dominant. D altered, sharp 9 chord. Anytime we raise the 9th, raise the 5th, lower the 9th, lower the 5th, we call it an altered chord. That's just shorthand for altering the 5 chord. 2, 3, that's the E flat to the altered 5 chord, back to the 1 chord. Now, the interesting thing between major blues and minor blues is you still play the minor pentatonic scale over them as a general principle. You can do a lot more than that, but so the same scale will fit over these chords. So even though I'm playing G minor, G minor pentatonic, right? Even when I go to this flat 6 chord, the E flat dominant chord, to the 5 chord altered, blues. All right. That'll take care of the blues layout right there for major and minor with some embellishments. Oh, I wanted to talk about a couple substitutions. Let's go back to the, so this will be part 3 on this video. So let's go back to E blues and we'll do a couple substitutions. We have 4 bars of E. That's a long time in blues language to do nothing but just the 1 chord, right? So the first kind of embellishment is to go to the 4 chord on the 2nd bar, back to the 1 chord on bar 3 and 4, okay? Pretty easy to do, pretty simple substitution. That just sounds like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. That's the A7, going back to the 1, 2, 2, 3, and then we're into bar 5, right? So that's the first substitution, is just substituting the 4 chord in bar 2 instead of playing 4 bars of a 1 chord. The next substitution is to play the diminished chord a half step above the 4 chord in bar 6, which is the 2nd bar of the 4 chord in, right, of the 12 bar. Now that sounds like a big mouthful, but it's really actually pretty simple. It's an A7 chord, and if I want to play a dominant 7 a half step up, all I do is add the B flat note as my root note above my A7 chord. So that just helps transition back to the 1. And now I'm just back to an E7 chord, right? So that sounds like this. Broken down, we're starting on bar 5. We got A, 2, 3, 4, B flat, diminish, back to the 1 chord. And that completes bar 8. Okay? So we're just substituting the sharp 4 diminished in bar 6, but takes us back to the E chord in bar 7, right? Now let's do one more substitution. Coming down from bar 9, bar 10, this is our normal way. Let's get there a different way. So let's go bar 9, bar 10, we go up a half step. This is just the dominant B7 chord moved up to C for 2 beats, and then back down to the B chord, and then back to the E chord for bar 11, and then back to the B chord for bar 12. So let's try that again. So just to put that in context, this is now bar 9, 10, 11, and 12. We start off with the 5 chord at bar 9. 3, 4, bar 10, 1, 2, back, 3, 4, and we're back to 1 chord. And then the turnaround. Bar 12 to the 5 chord. And then we're back to the top. So let me play those all together with the substitutions. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 chord in bar 2. 3, 4. Back to the 1 chord. to the 4 chord, 5, bar 6, back to bar 7, bar 8, bar 9, bar 10, half, back to 11. Good. Now that turnaround is another substitute for this one. We're going to take some of those notes, invert them, in other words, put them, rearrange them, and we get this, which is our E chord, but we're only playing the G and the B string. Down a half step, down a half step, and we resolve to E. So I'm just playing the G and the the G and the E string. That's all in bar 11, right? That just sounds like this. We'll take it from bar 9. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Bar 12. All right. Now we'll do some other fun little embellishments too. We can add that, but that'll get you started on some basic blues phrasing and substitutions. All right, I'll talk to you later, and you can obviously keep notes, keep questions, and we'll cover those later. All right, see ya.